You've worked hard to earn and save. Now it's time to make your money work hard for you. This is Empower Your Retirement with Frank and Frankie Guida of A Better Way Financial.
The thing about time and age is that a lot of us feel very different in our minds than the reality of what may or may not be happening on the exterior in the physical space. And comedian Tom Papa, if you're not familiar with him, look him up because he is a good time. He actually has some perspective on the idea of aging and the disconnect that happens for a lot of us. This is Tom Papa.
If you're young here tonight and you see an old person, I know you don't think that that's you in the future. You look at an old person, that's not you in the future. That's like looking at a sequoia tree or a unicorn. But it is going to be you one day before you know it. And if you're older and you look at a young person and you think, I still look like that. You don't. You don't. You don't.
Little dose of reality today for you watching this YouTube, listening to this podcast. But the idea of how we think about ourselves versus the reality of what's going on, Frankie, this is where the work that you do is important as far as giving people sometimes some healthy reality doses, because when it comes to our retirement, a lot of us will think that's years ahead. We're way off from that. However, that mindset, it can work against us when it comes to our preparation for retirement planning, can it not?
Oh, it absolutely can. If you're not planning for your retirement, if you're saying, oh, this is something that's going to happen in the future, I don't really think this is something I need to worry about right now, you could be putting yourself in a bad position, because retirement is not something that you just want to say, well, that's something that's going to happen later and have no plan for it. Because if you don't have a plan going into your retirement and then you all of a sudden are now retiring, you might not be where you need to be able to retire. And then you have to continue working longer. And if you're mentally checked out and you're mentally at that position where I'm ready to retire, and then you have to get working longer, that's not really a good place to be. That's not where you want to be. And so this is something that we talk about. It's never too early to start planning for retirement. We meet with people all the time, where they might be younger and they're like, all right, well, I know I'm 10 years away from retirement. I'm in my 50s and I'm not looking to retire till I'm 65 or 70. What really should I do now? Well, there are things that you can do. There are things we can plan for to make sure that you have everything right when you go into retirement. It's not something that just all of a sudden retirement happens and now I need to do something for retirement. This is something that we want to start planning all the while throughout the working career to make sure that we're transitioning the portfolio, getting it safer as you get closer to retirement, and making sure that everything is working the right way tax efficiently for you throughout the course of your working career. This reminds me when I was in elementary school. They had very sophisticated passwords back then. It was still a new time for the computers. So when I was growing up, they had the password was the last name, so it was Guida, in my case, 2017. I was like, why 2017? I never understood. I was in elementary school. And I'm like, 2017, that's so far away. That'll never happen. And it's like, oh, well, I guess that did happen. That was the year I was going to graduate high school. And so they had that as your password. And I'm like, this is just so far away. And I feel like that could be similar to people who are thinking, retirement, that's so far away. Or my full retirement age, that's going to be 2030 something. I don't know if I'll make it to 2030. You're going to make it to 2030. That's going to happen. And so planning for it and not procrastinating and not putting our head in the sand and just thinking about, well, what can I do to put myself into a better position for retirement? Well, one of the first things that you can do is start a conversation. And so we're going to be able to have a conversation with you if you're looking for what can I do to protect myself as I get closer to retirement? How can I start preparing today for my retirement? There are things that we can do. We can look through your 401k, see what options you have within that. Even if you're not 59 and a half, we could look through, well, what are the current investment options? Are there anything that we can do better? Looking at those options, seeing what are they allocated? Are they in funds that are in America? Or are they in foreign countries? Are they in bonds or in stocks? Are they in a target retirement fund? What different options do you have? How do we protect the portfolio as we get closer to retirement, but also get the best rates of returns that we can over the course of our working career? Because we don't have to go fully risk off yet either, because we still have some time as we're working. So as you're trying to figure out, well, what is the best option for me and how do I protect myself as I get closer to retirement, feel free to click on the link below and we'll be able to get a conversation started with you about your retirement. So yeah, we recently were working with this couple and they felt like retirement just snuck up on them. They're like, this is the year now. I'm ready to retire. I've had enough of this work stuff, and now's the time. I said, all right, well, it's never too late either, so let's start planning. And so we discussed, what are your options? How is everything working? Do you have an advisor? Do you not have an advisor? They currently had an advisor. They were okay with what their advisor was doing, but they wanted to get a second opinion and see what options they had, if there was anything that they could be doing better. And so we developed their plan to see what we could do to make sure that we're getting the most out of their portfolio in these years as they're approaching their retirement years. And so they had annuities already within their portfolio. Some of them had different buffers, and the way that those work is you absorb the loss after a certain point that they call the buffer. So like, let's say there's a 10% buffer. The insurance company will absorb the first 10%, and then anything more than 10% you're absorbing. And so there still are losses in those types of annuities, but there can be gains as well. So if the market goes up, they had caps around 6 to 7%. So if the market went up 6 to 7% or more, they're getting 6 to 7%. If it went up less than that, they're getting whatever the market got. And so we looked at those annuities and we said, well, these aren't really doing as well as they could be. There's other annuities out there that they don't have any market losses, and you can get caps as high as 10%. So you can earn more on the upside and lose less on the downside. So let's look into repositioning and restructuring some of that portfolio. We looked into the market investments, and a lot of those were underperforming as well. And so we said, well, here's the options. We can shift some of the market funds to get it closer to the S&P 500, the overall stock market. We can shift some of these annuity funds to get it so that you're having less risk and a higher potential rate of return. And we're going to be able to do this for similar fees to what your current guy is charging you. And so they look through it. They're like, well, that makes a lot of sense. I'm glad I came in for that second opinion. But what can you guys do about taxes? And my current person doesn't talk to me about taxes. They don't have any strategies for how to save money in taxes. And I said, well, what we do here is we specialize in looking into what can we do to protect everything in your retirement. So that's including taxes. That's including your estate planning, including your insurance planning, making sure that every piece of your portfolio is properly protected throughout the course of your retirement years. So we looked into taxes and seeing what we can do to make sure that they're saving as much as they can in taxes as well over the course of their retirement years. They were projected to save over $225,000 in taxes over the rest of their retirement just by repositioning that portfolio the right way over the next 20 to 30 years for their retirement years. And by having everything set up, getting a higher projected rate of return, paying less projected in taxes, having the estate plan properly set up, they were able to get an additional $50,000 projected of income every single year for the rest of their retirement. And that's able to make a huge impact on not only what they want to do in their retirement, but also different legacy planning and different strategies they can use to make sure that they're getting the most out of their portfolio. So they can go from the $60,000 of income that they were spending per year up to $110,000 of income. And so this can make a huge difference in anyone's retirement if you can get an extra $50,000. Now, I'm not saying that number is the same for everybody. Some people it's more, some people it's less. But come see what it could look like for you. And it really can have a huge difference. Just looking through each piece of the pillar, making sure that everything's working the right way in your retirement years can add, literally in this case, tens of thousands of dollars more in extra income per year, potentially in your retirement. So feel free to click on the link below. We'll be able to get a conversation going and seeing where you're at, see if there's anything better that you could be doing, and just starting a conversation together.
Thanks for listening to Empower Your Retirement with Frank and Frankie Guida. To learn more, visit abetterwayfinancial.com.
By contacting us, we'll review aspects of your retirement portfolio to include suggestions about how best to utilize estate, tax, and retirement planning strategies and other financial services, or if changing management styles is appropriate for your specific needs and objectives. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendations to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. A Better Way Financial is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Any client experiences discussed during this show are unique to that client, and they are not meant to imply or suggest you will experience the same results. Advisory services offered through A Better Way Financial. Insurance offered through licensed professionals at A Better Way Financial. Pennsylvania Insurance License number 301779.